Welcome. This is our last series of the semester, and it is called Rise. Oh, very good. Rise Up, and we are going to be doing 4 weeks of this Rise Up series. Lindsay Brooks, everyone know who Lindsay is? This is her and her little baby Parker. Lindsay said something a few weeks ago that kind of blew my mind, and it might seem really simple to you, but she said this. She said, "We are not a youth group." All right? Anyone have their minds blown? We are not a youth group. It's like, there's youth here, we're a group. Surely we're a youth group. She said, we're not a youth group. We are a youth ministry. Isn't that deep? Isn't that deep? Difference between a youth group and a youth ministry. Youth group, kind of people come and they gather, they form this clan, they do little things inside their little huddle, they sing songs, they learn about their stuff, and they hang out with their peeps. That's what a youth group does. But a youth ministry are people who go out into the world. We come here to be equipped to learn so that we can go out and we can use our gifts. We can serve the kingdom in the world. So will you say this with me? We are not a youth group. We are a youth ministry. So this series is all about us. We're telling you that you are ministers. You're people who are invited to participate in the kingdom and use your gifts as we rise up. And we're going to look at 4 characters in the scriptures who rose up. So this is just a quick test to see if anyone can guess who our first character is. So any guesses? Noah. Excellent. Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for being an idiot again.
I hate this thing. I'm going to die.
So perfect. All right. So we are looking tonight at the story of Noah, and Marcel Monkey can sit there. How did Noah rise up in the scriptures? How did Noah rise up? Someone tell me how Noah rose up. On a boat. That's a great answer. Noah did rise up on a boat. Kind of build a boat, build an ark. I want you to watch two. I want you to watch 2 Noah trailers, and in each trailer, I want you to kind of be paying attention to not to Noah himself, but to how people respond to Noah, what they say about him or what they say to him. So here's the first one. It was from 2007.
Almighty.
All right, Evan Almighty, 2007. How did people respond to Noah? What did they say about Noah? They were incredulous. I don't even know what that word means. Maybe, they might be, if you can provide a dictionary. That's wonderful. Anyone else? What does incredulous mean? Does he... Okay, weirdo with a beardo. That was my favorite line. That was awesome. Okay, any other things? They thought he was insane, okay? Yeah, so in the first clip in Evan Almighty, there are camera crews there, there's reporters there, all kind of judging him and kind of looking at how incredulous he is. Or I think it might mean something like ridiculous, I don't know.
It's like, amazed, they're in awe, they're surprised.
They're in awe, surprised. Wow, okay.
It's like incredible, but incredulous.
Awesome.
Yeah, girl. Yes.
America 1, UK 0. So yeah, they're looking at him, they're kind of thinking he's weird and he's crazy. Why on earth is he building an ark? Great. Look at the second trailer and then want us to kind of compare the reaction. This one is coming out on Friday. Pay attention to how they respond to Noah. Really? You need a round of applause? So David and I are going to go see that on Friday night, and it opens on Friday night. We're going to have a 7 o'clock showing, so if anyone wants to come and join us, we're going to be in Cool Springs. I think we're meeting at 6:45. So get your tickets on Fandango because it is opening night and it will be busy. So in this second one, Noah just coming out now, how do they respond to Noah this time around? Say again? They kind of want to kill him. Okay, anything else? Angry, incredulous. Say again? Desperate, why?
Because they were like, take the ark.
Okay, yeah. So there's a difference between the two, and obviously the difference in between the two movies is that in one of them, in Evan Almighty, you've got the White House, you've got democracy, you've got cars, you've got cameras, you've got technology. So it's a very, very different world, whereas in the new Noah movie, it's set in, well, we don't really know when it's set. It's just set before, long back in time. That was very specific, I know. So the thing about the second Noah movie is I think it helps us step a little bit more into the kind of real realm of which it might have kind of draws us in a little bit more to the context of the story, because it's not in 2014. And we have the tendency, I think, to read scripture and read stories like this with our 2014 glasses on. We're thinking about things with the benefit of science and reason and our education, and we're going, so how did Noah build the boat? Did he build it on his own? Did he have other people? How did he build something that was strong enough to hold all the animals in the world? What about the polar bears? Did they travel up from Antarctica to get to Israel to come and join the boat? How does he... One I've always wondered, do the fish join the boat? Because presumably they don't need to be in the boat because, they're in water. But we think about all these questions because we're thinking about our 2014 lenses. And what I want us to do is to change lenses and think about things a little bit differently. And remember the context in which the story is written. So, look over to our pre-made timeline. So, remember we're here in 2014 AD. Twitter is only released somewhere in 2010, I guessed. We got me born. The Industrial Revolution, so all of our technology is only from the 1600s on. So we go back to the Bible was brought together sometime around Adam 300. Jesus born in 3 AD. One of the important things is that writing isn't invented until 3,000 years before Jesus. And the writing that we have is this was discovered actually in January of this year, and it's a tablet in cuneiform, which is one of the earliest forms of writing that we know of, written on a tablet. And this tablet actually tells of a story very similar to the Noah story, and I found this recently. What I'm trying to get at, though, is this is, I think, this is the first time writing is invented. So the first time the Noah story could have been written down was somewhere around 3000 BC. The story has probably been around for a long time before that, passing it on through what we call oral tradition, just through word of mouth, people retelling the stories over and over again. So the Noah story has probably existed for a long time, but wasn't written down at least until around 3000 BC. And remember, a different world, no Twitter, no school, no biology, no psychology. They don't have that sort of thinking. And so one of the ways that they have to still make sense of their world. We try and make sense of our world through like philosophy and through all these kind of sciences, but they don't have that. But they still need to make sense of their world. And one of the ways which would be common in kind of ancient history is through mythological stories. Now, myths are stories, not just made up stories, but they're stories that help us explain how and why things are the way that they are. So if you think about The Hunger Games, Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, they're all fictional stories, but they all are in some way real because they tell us something about the world that we live in. They tell us something about good and evil, how it came to be, why it came to be, and how we should deal with it. So myths are stories that help explain how and why things are the way that they are. Another thing to remember is that Genesis is, again, writing isn't invented until 3000 BC. It's gathered together from all different sources sometime between 3000 and 0. So the Genesis kind of book comes together sometime in these 3,000 years, gathering from different sources and the kind of people in the tradition putting it together until it becomes the book of Genesis. So they live in a world where they tell stories in a mythological sense to explain things. They're trying to make sense of stuff. They're trying to make sense of the beginning of time, and we're still trying to do that. And we do have science. This is a time where they don't have science, they don't have all these things. So they're trying to make sense of all of this stuff from the beginning of time. And scholars kind of call the first 11 books of Genesis, they call it primeval history. The first 11 books they see as like the Jewish people trying to make sense of what they don't know, trying to make sense of the beginning of time. So the real question that maybe we're thinking of is the Noah story even real? Did it ever happen? Well, there are other stories. This again is this old form of writing. They've found other tablets that tell of other flood stories, not the Noah story, not the kind of biblical story. They tell of another flood story, and it's called the Epic of Gilgamesh. So the fact that there is other literature out there that refers to a flood might say that actually there might have been a flood at some point in time. But without Twitter, without kind of the news, how do they know if this flood is worldwide or if it was just in their region? What may have happened is there might have been a flood in this region, and they've, in their minds, is like worldwide, because they can't comprehend anything outside of their own little part of the world. So there could have been a flood, and they've used it to kind of tell this story. There is actually a group of archaeologists who claim that they found the ark on a mountaintop in a wooden structure. People have questioned that. It hasn't really been verified. But it does seem like there may have been a flood in a particular region of the world. And the people have used this story to kind of tell a myth, to try and explain and make sense of their world. Ultimately, here's the question. Can I believe that the story of Noah really happened? Yes, you're allowed to believe. You can believe that the story really happened. Do I have to believe it? No, you do not have to believe the story was literally real to belong to our tradition, to be a Christian, to read the Bible and to respect the Bible. You can believe that this Noah story did not literally happen and still believe and respect the story. Either way, the point is this. We need to see the story not through our 2014 lenses, but through understanding that the mythological sense in which these stories are told. Nick, where are you? We come up. So what is the point of a story then? Nick's going to read a few verses, and this is what I think we can take as the point of a story. Verses 5 and 6, please, Nick.
All right. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it represented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart.
So if you remember back to our Hunger Games series, the first week was there's something wrong in the world. And this verse is saying the exact same thing. The world that God had created is not how God intended it to be. It has fallen apart. There is violence and wickedness. Carry on with verse 7.
And the Lord said, I will destroy man who I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them.
Okay, so God sees the evil in the world, and God is disgusted with the evil. This is not how I intended things to be, and so God is going to do something about it, which takes us to verse 8.
But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, the next chapter goes on to say, Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with the Lord. So here's what I think the most important part of the story is not that there was an ark, that Noah built an ark, but that in the midst of all this corruption and violence, that there is a man that stands out as different. There's a man who has risen up and is different from the world around him. He has not been sucked in to the ways of the world. It doesn't really say how. It just says he was blameless and that somehow Noah was different from the corrupt world that he lived in. So what I want us to think about tonight is this idea of standing out, that if we're going to rise up as people of God, that God calls us to stand out from the world around in Brentwood. Let me pray for you, and then I'll dismiss you to your small groups.